Hello and welcome to the Corporate Secretary Yearbook. In this video series, we're talking to nominees for the Corporate Governance Awards. Today, I'm joined by John White, Corporate and Securities Counsel at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, to talk about his nomination in the Rising Star category. Welcome, John. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me, Ben.
Well, you joined HPE's legal department just as the company was rounding off its spin-off from Hewlett-Packard. The company spun off its software and enterprise services businesses and took on various M&A transactions. So after spending a couple of years focused on M&A and related issues, you've joined the securities and governance team. So now you're overseeing junior employees, paralegals, and also mentor summer associates and new attorneys. And I'd just like to talk about some of the specific aspects of your work that you've been doing recently, just to get some more insight as to what's behind the headlines there. So you're credited as being, an important part of HPE's shareholder engagement program, and for having developed a playbook to help prepare directors so that they can take part in that program in the best way possible. Could you talk us a little bit about what that playbook entails and how you think it helps directors during their engagement activities?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think setting the kind of groundwork of the context here is really important. So having shareholder engagement throughout the entire year and really having some major touch points, things like, of course, the annual meeting or our securities analyst meeting. So I think kind of just painting the framework of it being year-round really called for the need of pretty substantial materials to make sure our directors and management who are involved in those discussions with our shareholders are really feel like they have any piece of information they would want to know about what matters the most to our shareholders. So the playbook really came together from, I would say, different pieces that we thought were valuable. So I think we've always had some of these portions in some areas, but we've really thought about enhancing them and beefing them up. One that is near to me is our shareholder profiles. So really diving into their voting behavior, what are their stances in terms of proxy voting guidelines, and then really diving into specifics about us. So conversations they've had with us in the past, making sure we keep a reminder for ourselves on what we've discussed, what we've promised them, and ideally with a view of looking to the future of what we want that relationship to look like with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd say another big piece is really we have this shareholder engagement deck that goes to our board and our management, and it really lays out everything that we think is important about communicating about our pretty sometimes complex corporate governance profile, as well as, again, topics that we think, we call them trending topics, ones that we think are just particularly relevant that should make their way into discussions with our shareholders. So sort of to your question, yeah, all these different pieces have come together into this playbook that I've helped develop, and we've been pretty pleased with that.
That's great. And yeah, obviously, investors love to see directors involved where they can. So obviously for directors, it's great to, pretty busy people, it's good to have something they can refer to and get up to speed.
Yeah, exactly.
You also, I understand, you sort of came up with the idea of to help the legal team work together effectively, sort of use a virtual reality platform. So you can sort of have, which is obviously something particularly helpful sort of during the pandemic. And I wondered again, how did that come to you, and how has that helped? How has that helped the team?
Yeah, that one's been very exciting. So this program started, or rather the idea started with myself back getting close to almost exactly a year ago. And this was pre-pandemic, so I just thought this could be a very interesting tool at the time to still connect teams, where I'm sure this is common everywhere. We have folks, all companies will have folks scattered across the country or the world. And so I was sort of just exploring it on that basis alone. And then, of course, fast forward to where we are now, where we don't get any in-person interactions, which is, I think, really helped move the program forward and helped a wider range of people see the value in it. So specifically to your question, it's been, I honestly feel pretty lucky at times that I belong in a legal department that thinks this is an idea worth pursuing. that's maybe, purely just in a tech space or a tool resource space. And overall, the feedback's been very positive. People time and time again tell me that they feel like when they're in a VR conversation with someone, um, that it's much more akin to being face to face with someone than what the norm is. And unfortunately, I feel like, and maybe you can correct me if you've seen otherwise, the norm is still videos off on a Teams or a Zoom call or Skype, um, and it's easy to sort of sit in the background or get distracted by an email, versus when you're in virtual reality, you don't have that email popping up. You're just looking face to face with someone else or another team. Um, and yeah, we found the engagement levels to be pretty high in our meetings there.
That sounds fascinating. And so multiple people can be in that at any one time, right? It's not just a one-to-one.
Yeah, exactly. And which reminds me, I actually have a meeting to set up for early next week. We're going to invite the whole team. So it's probably going to be sending the invite out to maybe 40 to 50 people to see if we can all get together for a little celebration. So,
Wow, that
yeah.
sounds that sounds great.
Yeah.
So another area you've been working on this year was the 2020 proxy statement, and I believe part of what you were trying to do is sort of expand some of the sort of topical disclosures, ESG, that kind of thing. Could you maybe sort of pull out a couple of areas where you think that you were able to really sort of help the proxy statement evolve in a helpful way for shareholders?
Yeah, definitely. And you said it perfectly. When we think about our proxy statement and the enhancements we want to make, usually it's in two categories. So one, I would say in a design or a user friendliness, we want to make sure our shareholders can get to the information they want to see as soon as possible. But actually, I'm going to skip over that and talk about the second one, which is more of the substance. So, of course, the real reason why our shareholders are looking there for the first place, are we disclosing the right level of detail of information there? So this last year, I really played a big role in enhancing it in a few areas. I think the two I'll call out is our board's risk oversight. So we really tried to expand and really elaborate on the way I view it, the multiple layers of oversight conducted by our board, both, of course, at a full board level across the company, but really also at a committee level. And at HPE, we have 5 committees. So really being able to dig into the nuances of the different areas of risks and opportunities that each of those committees and their members oversee, we thought would be really valuable. So we even enhanced, kind of combine that with ideally well, hopefully our shareholders see as an easy infographic or a way of organizing that information. But that was certainly a big area of improvement. The second one I wanted to highlight, and one that's incredibly near and dear to me, is our environmental, social, and governance disclosures. We expanded this out to a much larger section. And I should sort of say, stay tuned. We've got even more planned for this upcoming season. But in there, really wanted to drill in a nice summary. So still keeping it succinct, but talking about sort of the strategies and priorities for ESG on our end, as well as showing them the outcomes that we achieve. So showing our rating scores from different agencies was really important to us, to show them that not only are we talking about this, and this is an important topic to us, but really achieving what we see as meaningful progress or success on these topics in the industry is of course very important to us.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, just one last question. Speaking of ESG reporting, you've also been sort of working on building the relationship between the governance team and corporate affairs who handle obviously ESG issues. And I just wondered how you've sort of gone about that and how that's helped really with functioning together.
Yeah. It's I have really enjoyed this collaboration, and for some reason, I guess I should say, there are so many teams across a company like ours, and since they don't fall within the legal department, sometimes it's easier to have a little bit of distance there. But given the growing importance of ESG for our shareholders and of course for stakeholders, I found over the last probably year and a half a real a real drive and a need for enhancing our relationship with that team. So it's really very kind of been incremental or gradual over time, from just making sure we're synced up on maybe the latest research that I'm seeing on more of a legal side of ESG and sharing that with them, keeping them a little bit up to date on when we do research on ESG topics that make their way up to management and the board, making sure that they're again aligned with our views there. And of course that goes both ways. We're reaching out to them to make sure, are we stating this the correct way, from a more of a technical side, from an environmental or climate change standpoint, where they have the expertise. So the relationship there has been, it continues to grow to this day, and it's been incredibly fruitful and helpful for really, I'd say, taking our understanding, disclosures, oversight, everything on ESG to a whole new level. So
Great. Well, John White, thank you so much for joining us today, and thanks for sharing your thoughts.
yes, thank you so much for your time, Ben. Really appreciate it.